never wear cement shoes when you go swimming. What does that mean? Well, we often hear that saying when we hear things about mobsters in the movies, where they're going to give you cement shoes and sink you to the bottom. But we could have a choice of whether we wear cement shoes or not. And the bottom line is, when it comes to the choice, what does that mean? That means whether we choose to weigh ourselves down or not weigh ourselves down with certain burdens in our life. And the biggest burden we have in our life is created in our own minds, something called stress. So the question then beckons, okay, where to from here? Well, very simply put, once upon a time. Because all good stories start with once upon a time. Once upon a time, I was lying in bed and I woke up and I looked up and I saw the ceiling. And as I looked at the ceiling, my mind went, wait a moment. That's not my bedroom ceiling, yet here I am lying in bed. I obviously had a confused look on my face, which became even more confused because only a moment later, leaning over me, looking down at me, smiling, was a lady. And she saw the look of confusion in my face, and she said to me, "Hi, Jason." I looked at her, and she said, no, don't worry. You don't know me. Which made the confusion even more. I'm a nurse. A nurse? Why? What's going on? You're in hospital. But you were involved in a motor vehicle accident. Oh, is Lisa okay? Lisa was my fiance at the time. Is Lisa okay? Yes, you were alone in the car. Okay, can we phone Lisa and let her know what's happened? Oh, no, she knows already. Confusion reigned even more. What do you mean she knows already? I don't understand. Jason, you've been here just over 3 months. What? 3 months? Where? What? How? My heart beat, sped up like you can't believe. The machine on the side of me in the hospital bed started going berserk. My stress levels climbed and climbed and climbed. And slowly but surely, the truth was unpacked for me. But would I have coped with it under normal circumstances? And the answer is a definite no. It was a complete mind warp. I needed to do something about it. And that was when I started implementing all of these beliefs and thoughts around positivity in my life. And thus became the journey of Jason and stress management. And I want to share today with you just a snippet of something that is easily implementable that you can bring into your life to make a positive change. You see, it all starts at one point. And that one point is understanding what stress actually is. And if I had to say to anybody who's listening right now, what is stress? You'll all come up with a myriad of different definitions of stress. But I want to give you the definition of stress that I think is the best definition, because it comes from what I consider to be the #1 best dictionary in the world. And for those of you that are not aware of it, the best dictionary in the world is not Oxford. It's called Jason's Dictionary. So how do I define stress in my awesome dictionary? Stress is defined as a mental thought, as a mental emotion that manifests negatively in a physical form. You see, often when we are overwhelmed with stress, we show all of the same symptoms of a heart attack. We've all heard about having panic attacks. Panic attack is a light way of saying, I'm overwhelmed with stress and I'm not coping physically, emotionally, or mentally. But stress also has a flip side. And the flip side is something called eustress. And eustress is actually positive stress. It is where we have stress, but that pushes and drives us, rather than negative stress, which actually debilitates our abilities of doing things, which shuts down our thought processes, where we go into what's called a panic mode. Now you might be saying, positive stress? What is that? You know, when you've got that deadline and you push through and you get there and you make it and it's done in time, that's eustress that drove you and pushed you. What about the time when you got to cross a road? Near your home, by your home, there is a road which you cross probably on a regular basis. But it is eustress that makes you look both ways before you cross. Eustress has a positive impact on us. Eustress creates positive results, whereas stress creates negative results. Now, often you'll hear people say, we need to eliminate all the stress out of our lives. Here is the truth. We can't eliminate all of the stress out of our lives. We live in a world where there is stress. And because we live in a world where there is stress, we will often be inundated with stress. What we need to learn to do is to manage the stress. We've got to be realistic about things. We can't live in a world going, we don't want any stress, because that is so unrealistic. But if we can learn to embrace that stress, hold on to it, and learn to manage it properly, that's where we can create a positive change in our lives. You see, far too many people, far too many people, they wear stress as a badge of honor. Maybe you are one of those people. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing great. I'm stressed. I'm so stressed, but I'm coping. Why do we wear it as a badge of honor? Stress is known to cause so many illnesses in our lives. Did you know that stress is a bigger contributor to heart problems in the world than high cholesterol is? Stress is the biggest killer in the world. Often it is stress that drives people to suicide, to burnout, to giving up. Barack Obama, the top picture, that's what he looked like. That photograph was taken on the day of his inauguration. Look at the one next to me over here. That was only 6 years later. Yes, he's aged by 6 years, but look how profoundly different he looks in these two pictures. And one of the key factors is stress. So what is stress? Well, stress is different for everybody, you see. We have something called stressors, and the stressor is something that creates stress in our lives. We're all different. That's the beauty about being a human being. We are all different. And there is something that will stress me out and cause stress in my life that somebody else will look at and go, that's nothing. We're not here to judge you on what causes stress in your life. What we're here to do is say, recognize what your stressors are and realize when your stressors are big, that's where you lose the ability to cope with what it is. And as soon as you lose the ability to cope with what it is, that's when the stress becomes overwhelming. A beautiful example is my son. He's now a teenager, but when he was much younger, we went to one of these animal sanctuaries and they were doing a show. And one of the things they did in the show was they took out a tarantula spider. Now, tarantula spiders can be very intimidating. And they took it out and they said, is there anybody here who will allow it to walk on them? Of course, my son goes, me. And somewhere deep in the depths of my file on my computer, I have got a photograph of him with this tarantula both on his hand at one point, on his head at another point. His cousin was with him that day, who's the same age as him. And he was having a panic attack almost on behalf of my son. And he kept calling my son mad, and you must go to hospital to see if you got a brain. Granted, they were only 8 at the time. But that is exactly what it is. It was a stressor for Daniel, and it meant nothing to Ty. What I want to share with you is an acronym. An acronym, AHA. And as we all know, it's an acronym. Each letter stands for a different word. I want you to repeat these things over and over again until it becomes part of you. Allow it to sink into the depths of your subconscious mind so that you do it without thinking. From now on, every time that you come across something that is a stressor in your life, I want you to think of the word AHA, and I want you to say it with enthusiasm. Now you might be saying, okay, Jason, but what is AHA? Well, the first A stands for the word acknowledge. I'm going to come back and explain each one in a moment. The H stands for hesitate. And the second A stands for action. Whenever you are confronted with anything that falls into your definition of stress and a stressor, I want you to acknowledge it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Don't pretend that it means nothing to you. Because when you're pretending, you're faking it. Meantime, inside, you got that churning all happening. Acknowledge it so that you understand it. Realize where these feelings are coming from. Maybe even realize why they are there. And then, when you've acknowledged it, just hesitate. Pause, step back, and stop for a moment, and plan what you're going to do. And believe it or not, one of the most powerful plans you can do is to learn how to breathe properly. And once you've decided on what you're going to do, you then move to the second A, the third letter, and action. You action what you had planned. Here's an interesting thing. We all know about adrenaline and how when we're in a certain situation, our body releases adrenaline into our body and we are ready for that fight and flight. But our body also produces other chemicals. And one of those other chemicals is endorphins. And endorphins are the flip side opposite of adrenaline. As adrenaline psychs us and pumps us up to fight and flight, endorphins relax us, calm us down. And the human being, that's you, me, we have the ability to trick our body to start manufacturing and producing endorphins by breathing. And how do we breathe properly to start releasing the endorphins? Well, it's a simple thing of a deep breath. And a deep breath is not, but rather a slow, deep inhalation, taking 3 or 4 seconds to inhale. Then holding our breath for 3 or 4 seconds. And then slowly, and the key is slowly exhaling. So it is not, because you're going to start hyperventilating then, but rather holding it for 3 or 4 seconds, and then slowly, when I'm finished my talk, I want you to go and practice it. But it doesn't help to just do it once. Do it anywhere between 6 and a half a dozen times. Because if you do, your body starts releasing endorphins. If there are any people on this, watching this video right now, who happen to be a smoker, and you tell me, oh, cigarettes calm me down, realize that it's the breathing. Yes, you're breathing all those chemicals in. By the way, none of them are relaxants, they're all stimulants. But as you take that cigarette and you drag on it, what are you doing? 2 to 3 seconds of inhaling, holding all of those chemicals in your body for 2 to 3 seconds, and then slowly exhaling. Each and every time that you're faced with anything that is a stressor in your life. Acknowledge it. Just hesitate and stop. Don't just be reactive. Think about it, plan it, and then action. Do it. There are many other tips that I have, but these are the basic ones that I wanted to share with you right now. You see, what we perceive, we conceive. And if you're going to look at the world and see all of this negativity in the world, you're going to always only see negativity. And the minute you only see negativity, you see this wrong and you see that wrong and you see that going wrong and you see that danger and this danger and another danger around that corner over there. Yet, we have the power. You see, it doesn't matter how thin something is. Take a piece of paper. It doesn't matter how thin it is. It's still got two sides. And if it has two sides, it is your choice. It is our choice. It is my choice which side I'm going to be willing to focus on. Do I focus on the negative side? Or do I focus on the positive side? The power lies within me. Sometimes we don't need to always believe the positive, but we need to be aware of it. One of the reasons that Ty, my son, is not afraid of spiders is because when he was very small, we lived in an area where there are a reasonable amount of spiders around our home. And the story that I always told went like this. Spiders are good because they eat mosquitoes. So whenever he sees a friend and there happens to be a spider and the friend is afraid of spider, he says, would you rather the mozzie bit you or the spider ignored you? And it has a positive impact. You see, he has learned to look from the positive side. The positive side does not take the stress away, but it helps to minimize it so that you can take back control, so that you can be the leader in your life instead of others controlling you. And that is so key and so important in our lives. And that is, we need to find the tools to make the world and our life work for us. So often, people come up with these big, intricate, detailed plans. They are maybe going to give good results, but they are so difficult to implement that we do nothing about them. But I've come up with all of these ones that are easy to implement, easy to bring into your life. In my book, From Stress to Success, the A to Z of stress management, I unpack all of that. In fact, in the book, each letter of the alphabet stands for a different tool to use in stress management. The A obviously is acknowledge. The B is breathe. A lot of people ask me, okay, well, what does the Z stand for? I cheated a little bit there. The Z stands for sleep, as in zzz. The book is available on Amazon if you are interested. The bottom line is we all have the power in us. Don't put those cement shoes on and go swimming, because by doing that, you are setting yourself up for emotional failure. Kick them off. Empower yourself. Find the tool or tools that work for you so that you can manage your stress instead of your stress managing you. If anyone does want to get hold of me, there are my contact details for more information, for help in helping you overcome the stress that you have. That is what it's about. Not eliminating stress from your life, managing it, taking back control. That is stress management in a nutshell. I thank you all for lending me your ears.